This is a Bolognese meat sauce. It's wonderful on pasta. It's a great way to line out a lasagna. And folks, once you learn this recipe, you're going to have a fabulous sauce to enjoy from now on. Well, howdy folks. Welcome to Texas Cooking Today. You have now found my tutorial episode on this recipe. Folks, if you don't want a detailed tutorial on cooking, then you might want to check the previous episode. That is just the recipe. This one, we're going to go into depth on the techniques and methodology used in this recipe. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and let's get in the kitchen. Oh, nice view, isn't it? This is right in the heart of Dallas. Used to be called Lee Park, but they took down the statue. It's no longer a memorial to Robert E. Lee. This is probably going to be, I think it's called Turtle Creek Park. I don't know what they called it now, but it doesn't matter. Gorgeous place. Come and visit right along Turtle Creek. Today I'm going to be making a Bolognese meat sauce. Now, if you're wondering what is a Bolognese meat sauce, well, a Bolognese meat sauce would be a pasta sauce that comes from Bologna, Italy. Now, Bologna, Italy is a little town. Well, it's not a little town. It's a city in northern Italy, in the plainslands of Italy, kind of centralized there, really. And the plainslands, well, you know, what do they grow in the plainslands? Well, there's grains there. There's rice. They grow corn and wheat. And of course, there is the other parts of agriculture that go with that kind of growth. And that would be cattle, you know, and pigs and chickens. So there's a lot of that kind of farming industry going on right there in northern Italy. And of course, cattle is a really big thing, and beef is a really big thing. And so you see, this kind of a recipe is a very common thing. Anyway, I want to get into the history of how I came about this recipe. This isn't something I found in a book or worked out over time. This is a recipe that my mother brought back. Now, here's the thing. My father, he didn't want to be a hood rat, okay? So he decided to go to college, and he wanted to be in medical school. He couldn't afford it, so he enlisted in the Air Force. The Air Force paid for his schooling, and then he became an Air Force dentist, okay? He was stationed in France. He was working on service members' teeth, all right? Well, during that time, they made friends. They met a lot of people. Mother had a housekeeper, and the housekeeper also helped her to learn Italian cooking. Her housekeeper was from Bologna, Italy, and Mother learned the Bolognese method of cooking. And she learned this particular meat sauce that I'm going to show you. This meat sauce I grew up eating, okay? I've had a lot of this. It's delicious. You put it on pasta, it's magnificent. The flavors pop. It's a very good dish, and when you try it, I think you're going to be hung on it. Now folks, there's a lot of ingredients in this, and I've already done the grinding and dicing and cutting and all that. So I just need to show you what we're going to be cooking with, and we're going to get started cooking this up. This is Bolognese meat sauce, folks. It's a good one. We are making a Bolognese meat sauce, and a Bolognese meat sauce starts with the meat. Folks, right here, I have about 2 pounds of ground beef. I'm using ground sirloin, and mostly because I simply had a big piece of sirloin that was the right weight, and so that's what I used. Ground chuck will work fine for this. Any kind of ground beef does good. Don't be afraid of giving this a try. Now, the tomatoes we have back here, tomatoes in their own juice. Those are diced tomatoes. I have some tomato paste, heavy cream, white wine, oregano, nutmeg, garlic, salt, diced carrots, diced onion, and diced celery. That is what you have to make a Bolognese meat sauce. So it's rich in nutrients, beautiful flavors, lots of color, and folks, this makes absolutely delicious sauce. Folks, to begin making a sauce like this, you need a big pot. And that's what I have here. This is a very substantial pot. It's quite wide. And that's what I like to make a sauce like this in, because it gives me a lot of bottom surface area. to heat the food, to steam off moisture as needed, and to produce a wonderful, wonderful sauce. I'm going to start with 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to add to it some olive oil, and then I'm going to be putting these right down in there, our celery, onion, and those carrots, and we're going to sweat them closed, covered. Okay, so that's really simple. Bring it up in temperature, cover it, and let them cook gently for 8 to 10 minutes. Okay, this is easy enough. I'm going to turn on the heat, and I'm going to set this for a medium high to start with. And that's only because I want to get the temperature up in there fairly quick, get this going, okay? I'm going to add in some olive oil, and I'm going to be putting in, you know, about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil in there. You can add as much as a 1/4 cup if you wish. There we are. Now what that is going to do is it's going to melt together. The olive oil is going to help temper that butter a little bit so that it can handle more heat. And at the same time, we're going to be producing some wonderful flavors when we get it all cooked together. First thing I'm going to do is just let the butter melt, and as soon as it is melted, in goes our vegetables. Okay, my butter has melted down. Let's add in the vegetables. There we go. And of course, it's not hot yet, so there's no sizzling or anything like that going on. But don't worry, that's all going to happen in a little bit. I just want to get these well coated with the oil, the butter. Now folks, it only took a couple of minutes. It is now up and cooking. I'm getting a little bit of steaming started there, as you can see. All right, so what I'm going to do, level that out a little. I'm going to cover this. I'm going to turn my heat down to a medium-low now. And as I mentioned before, we're just going to let that sit and sweat for 8 to 10 minutes. And I want to stir it every couple of minutes. You know, you don't want anything burning. Just tend to it. My vegetables, they've been cooking now for right at 10 minutes. Now the thing of it is I'm not looking to fully cook these. I was only sweating some of the moisture out and getting some of the flavors to marry there. So it's just the beginning of the cook, okay? That's all we're doing. Now next, I want to put my meat in there. Don't dump it in all at once, guys, okay? You're going to end up splashing some of this other out and burning yourself, and it won't be a good day, okay? So take your meat and put it in there in smaller amounts. So I'm just getting it all mixed together real well, and I'm going to do the same thing I did a minute ago. I'm going to cover this. And understand that when you're making a Bolognese meat sauce, this is actually a process. There's one step, then there's another, and then there's another, and each step leads up to an eventual final dish that's just truly magnificent. And so there's a lot of flavors. We're building and stacking those flavors up. And again, after this comes up in temperature, it starts cooking. I'm going to cover it and then open it about every 2 minutes to stir it. And that way you don't get too much cooking on one side or any burning going on. Medium-low temperature still, and that's where we're at, folks. This is simple enough. As my meat is cooking up over here, let's take advantage of the moment to mince up this garlic. Now the garlic, guys, is not that difficult to work with. All you have to do is twist a little bit and that paper will break free from that meat. Just don't twist it hard enough to break that part, okay? Just gently, okay? When you hear that crackling, guess what? That paper's coming loose. Now one thing I like to do before I go to mincing garlic or anything is just remove that little scab off of the end. I don't like the color of it, I don't like the look of it, and I don't want it in my end product, so I just remove it. After removing that, I want to crush my garlic. Now the technique I'm going to use with my knife involves first crushing the garlic so it doesn't bob and roll around on you when you're trying to cut it up, and then using your knife the right way to cut it. Now, you can mince this by choking up on your knife, pinching the blade like I normally teach, and just rocking it back and forth like this, and going over that. Okay, you can do that, all right, but I want to show you another technique that works really well. I learned this from another chef. He was very good at this, and I picked it up from him. What you want to do is use a knife that's offset from the handle like this is. There's about a almost inch offset right there, and a blade that's not too long, about 7-8 inches in length, works well. That way you can rock it back and forth like this. Now this is an exaggerated movement of what I'm going to be doing in a minute to mince my garlic, okay? What I want to do is to get some control on the front of the blade, and that will be these fingers. Now I need my thumb. It got to be tucked under. Boom, back here, out of the way. You don't want to nick your thumb while you're doing this, and if it's out here, guess what? You're going to hit it, all right? So don't do that. Get it under. Keep the fingers on top, nowhere else, on this back of the knife. And then this hand, we're going to be pulling back on the handle instead of choking up the way you normally would for good control. We're pulling back to get better speed, and that is the motion that we're going to use. Now let's show you how this is done. First, crushing. Right. Now remember, this is mostly to get this from rolling and bobbing around, okay? Now I'm just going to break it into some smaller pieces. See how I'm just gently rolling it down. Now we're going to move that to movement a little more brisk, and we're going to be raising it up in a little bit. Knock it off of the blade. When you're doing that, push away from that edge, okay? You can also just wipe it off on the board like this. Thumb under. See how that works? Now once you get a lot of practice doing this, you'll be able to speed it up. And you'll be able to mince a lot of garlic really, really fast, okay? Now that is a coarse mince right there. I want it to be a fine mince. That's the way I like my mince to go. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break it down a little more. And I want to speed up a little bit just so I can get through this, okay? I go into it a little bit, and I pull out some more, work that down, pull a little more out, work it down, a little more. This works like a simple charm. Now you might say, hey, why don't I just use a garlic press? Okay guys, I've had those before, I've used them. You know why I don't use a garlic press? Because I had to clean it out once, and I found out what a pain it is to clean out a garlic press. And that was the last time I used it. I just stick to the knife. There we go. That's a fine mince. All right, and that's simple, easy enough, isn't it? Look at that. This has been about 10 minutes. Okay, if you have any large lumps with the back of the spoon, just press down and pull back like that. It'll break any of those large lumps of meat apart, okay? That is absolutely beautiful looking. So what I want to do is we're going to put the cream in next, and we're going to cook it down a little bit, and then we're going to work in some other ingredients, okay? So next, with our heavy cream, we're keeping this on a medium-low, right on in there. I'll mix that in, and I want to keep cooking it just like I have been. You see that steam coming off? I want to reduce this by half, all right? Very easy. So we're going to cook our cream down, reducing it, and then we're going to start putting in our other ingredients, flavoring this up and making it a very, very special dish. There we go. See, it's reducing nicely. Just don't forget to give it a stir occasionally. Doesn't take much. Now folks, this has reduced by about half. Let me go ahead and kind of stir this a little bit and pull back the meat. As you can see in the bottom of the pan, a lot less liquid there. So yeah, I've reduced that by about 50% roughly. And I have a wonderful, wonderful product going on here. It's going to be very rich in flavor, but it's lacking in acid. So what we're going to have to do is bring in some flavor. And if you'll notice, we have our wine here, and pay attention to how much is in that bottle now, how much I end up using. All right, so don't be afraid of this. Just go ahead and get it on in there. Okay. Now, as you can see, what would you call that? About a cup and a half maybe? What we have to do, give this time to come up and reduce again. Now, don't worry about alcohol. There will be 0 alcohol in this product when you're done. Alcohol, it cooks off at 173 degrees. Well, guys, water boils at 212, okay? So when you see this come up to a boil, the first thing that's evaporating out, and what is evaporating out right now, remember this, I just brought the temperature down a lot with cold liquid. What's evaporating is the alcohol itself. And I can smell it. I can smell that alcohol hitting the air. All right, so don't worry about it being in the dish, and it shouldn't be a problem to you at all, because we're going to cook every bit of it out. We're also going to cook it to the point that we reduce the amount of other liquids in there. So there you have it. Now at this point, you can go ahead and put your seasonings in here, or if you wish, you can wait, put the seasonings in with the tomatoes. It works either way. I like to do it with the tomatoes. I think it gives it a more interesting pop and release to the flavor of the seasonings. So I like to do it that way. There we go. Just a matter of hurry up and wait. Okay, that last simmer on the cream was about 15 minutes. So I'm expecting this to be somewhere around 25 minutes. There's no rush on this. I'm just going to let it gently sit here and simmer. I'm allowing it to simmer, open lid. That way it displaces all that steam, and it's making us a beautiful tasting product. Now this has steamed off. Let's get our spices and tomato all down in there. This is reduced by a good 50%. Now don't forget that garlic. That was about 4 cloves, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and here we go with 1.5 teaspoons of oregano also. We'll get that tomato paste stirred in there, and it doesn't take long, just get it worked down in there, and after that we can then get our tomatoes stirred in and finish our final simmer on this. Folks, this isn't tough. Once you get everything stirred together, on the final simmer, you're not really looking to reduce it so much as you are in just getting the flavors to marry. So cover it, let it steam, and that is going to be that. It's an easy dish and one that is truly delicious once you try it. Our meat sauce is all cooked up and ready. I've prepared some spaghetti. Now let me tell you something about doing spaghetti. You know, I've had arguments with certain chefs about this. You do not have to wash spaghetti off once you've cooked it. In fact, it's really kind of an unproductive thing, because what happens is any soluble starch that is happening to be left on the outside of the pasta gets washed off, and that soluble starch helps your sauce to actually stick to it. It's a good thing to have. Now, if you're worried about it sticking together in the pot, coat it with olive oil. Right now, mine is stuck slightly, but let me show you the trick. As long as you coated it with olive oil already, all you have to do is put your tongs in there and jiggle it a little, just like that, see? There, it's ready to go. Won't stick together. That's the trick. And you don't have to worry about the starch. Remember, it's pasta. It's starch to the very center, okay? So if you de-starch it, there's no pasta left. Now, on our sauce, we have that all cooked up. It has a chance to thicken. It's absolutely beautiful. So let's get this plated up. Folks, today I used 2 pounds of ground beef. Now you can use any cut you want. I used sirloin. Sirloin or chuck both work very good for this, so you just take your pick. On the tomatoes back here, I used 30 ounces of diced tomatoes in their own juice, and I have about 5 to 6 ounces of tomato paste here. 1 cup of heavy cream. On our vegetables, that's 1 cup each of diced onion, diced carrot, and diced celery. Very simple measurements on this. 4 cloves of garlic, fine minced, We're going to be using about a teaspoon of salt. Now, I don't prefer nutmeg in mine, but if you like to use nutmeg or you want to try using the nutmeg in yours, use about 1/2 of a teaspoon of that nutmeg. And on the oregano, you're going to use 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of your oregano. White wine, folks, white wine is essential for this dish. It is part of the flavor of this sauce. And you're going to be using about 1.5 to 2 cups of that white wine. So it's a substantial amount. It's going to cook down and it's going to make a very good tasting sauce for you. Now let's take a look at what we've made. It's a delicious dish. Now, one of the things I like when I'm doing any kind of a pasta dish like this, I like a little bit of extra cheese on the side. That's some Parmesan cheese right there, folks. Beautiful, yummy. Now let's get some. Now, if you'd like, you know, you see some chefs, they twirl it. If you want to do that, you can do that with your tongs. I don't really think that that's such a thing. And I'll say this, something I really enjoy when it comes to pasta. Some chefs, they like to take their pasta and toss it with the sauce. Well, that's okay if you like that. That's all right. It's not going to hurt anything. But I really just like naked pasta on a plate and then put my sauce off in the center there, top it with some cheese, and it's a beautiful plating at the same time. As I was saying, it works out beautiful, doesn't it? There we have it. Once you have it like that, what the heck, a little cheese over the top of it? Sounds like a good idea. This is an absolute winner. I've been enjoying some of it. Beautiful Bolognese meat sauce. There's a lot of meat there, vegetables. The neat thing about this sauce is it is hearty. It's got something other just basic sauces don't have. That vegetable base. So very good. Folks, when you taste it, you're going to see what I mean by I had a spoiled childhood. Mom, she prepared this for us on a regular basis. I got to enjoy to eat such wonderful food. Thank you, Mom. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please try this recipe. Please share it with your friends. Take a look at the channel. There's a lot of other good stuff on there. If you've seen my tutorials before, you know that there's 2 versions. There's a recipe version. So if this was too long for you, the previous version is always just the recipe without the tutorial. Thank you for watching, and folks, please enjoy that pasta. I'm going to. Well, there it is, guys. That wasn't so tough. Well, once you know all of the tricks. Thank you very much for watching. If you would, please check out my channel. If you would, please subscribe, and please share this video. Folks, thank you very much, and you have a good day. Bye-bye.